Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Troy Clayton, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Commander Phil Andrews. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We also acknowledge the members of the RSL Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching this ceremony broadcast across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Nathaniel Robert Abbott. Nathaniel Abbott was born in 1892 in Evandale, Tasmania, the son of coach builder George Abbott and his wife Jane. Nathaniel was one of 9 children born into the family. He received his education at Tasmania State School and at the outbreak of war in 1914 was working as a labourer in Hobart. Abbott enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 18th of May 1915, aged 22. He was assigned to the 26th Battalion with the rank of private and embarked from Brisbane on troop ship Anas in June that year. Abbott reached Egypt in September and joined his unit on the Gallipoli Peninsula in October. He had scarcely seen a week of service when he was wounded in action, requiring him to be evacuated. He rejoined his unit in Alexandria in March 1916 before embarking for France. He arrived on the Western Front in late July, where his unit was preparing for an attack near the French village of Pozières. The German forces had distinct advantage around the village, holding the high ground which enabled them to launch devastating attacks on advancing troops. The offensive at Pozières took place over 42 days, with Australians making as many as 19 separate attacks against German positions. Australian divisions succeeded in capturing Pozières on the 5th of August, but it was not without tremendous cost. By the end of the battle, Allied casualties totalled a staggering 23,000 men captured, wounded or killed. During the fighting around Pozières, Abbott was wounded a second time, sustaining injuries to his arms, hands and legs. He was sent to England, where he spent a month recovering before being granted leave. Abbott spent more time training at the front before rejoining his unit in Belgium in 1917. The 26 operations were focused around Ypres sector in Belgium. When Abbott rejoined his unit, they were preparing to attack German positions around Menin Road. Troops were tasked with taking the high ground along the ridge, which intersected with Menin Road. Advancing infantry were faced with well-entrenched German defensive positions, including concrete bunkers and barbed wire. On the first day of the battle, Abbott was wounded for a third time as a result of shell fire, becoming one of 5,000 casualties sustained during that battle. Abbott's injuries were such that he was again sent to England to recover. He did not rejoin his unit until April 1918, during the push against the German Spring Offensive. In August 1918, the 26th took part in the Battle of Amiens, where the Allies intended to break through the Hindenburg Line and turn the tide of the war. The attack on German lines would make use of artillery, tanks, planes and infantry to overwhelm the enemy and break through their defences. In the early hours of the morning on the 8th of August 1918, Allied planes dropped smoke bombs. This was followed with a relentless artillery barrage under which troops and tanks advanced across no man's land. The enemy were taken by surprise and were quickly devastated by the offensive. The 26th were attacking positions near Villers-Bretonneux when Private Abbott was wounded for a fourth time, shortly after going over the top. He had been hit by a shell and was wounded in the head and in the legs. During the advance, his comrades tried to assist their injured mate by moving him to a shell hole and stabilising his head with a splint made from a rifle. He was later rescued by stretcher bearers and taken to the 83rd General Hospital at Boulogne. Abbott remained in hospital for 2 days before succumbing to his wounds on the 10th of August 1918. He was 26 years old. The following day, the Allies achieved their objective, drawing the offensive to a close. The combination of planes, tanks, infantry and artillery was so effective that the enemy's front lines had been completely overrun in the first 3 hours of the battle. By the end of the offensive, the Allies had taken more than 29,000 prisoners and had liberated 116 towns. After his death, his bereft family remembered Nathaniel Abbott in the local newspaper, writing, When peace reigns over the countryside, our thanks shall be to the lads that died. O silent hearts, can they hear us tell how peace was won by the men that fell? His name is listed on the roll of honour on my right among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Nathaniel Robert Abbott, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We'll remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We'd like to thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.